and welcome back to the Film Library, a Kanopy podcast. I'm Kristy Puchko, the entertainment editor at Mashable.
And I'm Jeff Rauseo, film lover, animation admirer, and someone who still wishes his toaster would break into song every morning.
Oh, big same. This week, we're diving into the endlessly creative world of animation, from hand-drawn magic to surreal stop-motion chills. Our list proves animation isn't just for kids. It's for dreamers, for weirdos, and for anyone who loves when movies push the boundaries of reality.
And I'm bringing a mix of heartfelt indies, experimental storytelling, and a dash of nostalgia. From hand-drawn to digital to interlacing live action, we're spotlighting stories that remind us animation isn't just a genre, it's a medium. And in the right hands, it can be funny, terrifying, heartbreaking, or all of the above in one frame.
So grab your sketchbook and your stylus or your favorite childhood comfort snack and get ready to see how limitless animation can be.
Yeah, so before we get started, Kristy, I got a question for you. We'll open up with, What's the one animated movie that you would recommend to someone who swears they just don't like cartoons?
Maybe I Lost My Body. Do you know this one?
I Lost My Body. I don't think so.
Okay, so I Lost My Body. I think it's on Netflix now. It's a French film that I won't pronounce so that I don't offend the good people of France. But it's from 2019, and it is the hero is a dismembered hand, and it is trying to find its body. And so it becomes this story about how did this hand get detached? What does it mean? And it reminds me, it's a very beautiful form of animation, and there's a lot going on. There's also overdubs, so if you're not a subtitle person, not a problem. But what I like so much about it is, upon reflection, I feel like it has a vibe to it that's like very 90s music video. So I think if you're someone who thinks that like animation is kid stuff, or maybe the energy of it's too intense, or it's just, if those are the things that are turning you off, I think I Lost My Body is a really great use of animation, because to make a movie like this live action would make it inherently horrific. And it's just not, because of how elegantly the story is told. And like, I think very much like, I think there are certain things animation can do better because it allows us to expand our understanding of what we're looking at. And the way this makes a disembodied hand like a hero, I think is just one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, we're going to definitely talk about some movies that use animation in that way too, that just kind of, they could have been done live action, but there's a reason you go with animation, because you can do more. But I think I was going to go with this might be cliche, but I'm just going to say Spirited Away, because I think it's just like this is Japanese film. It's Miyazaki. It's Studio Ghibli. Won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2003. And I remember in my Oscar pool that year being shocked, because I was 11 and I probably picked like Shrek. And I was like, what? What is this movie? Because I don't think you can fully even appreciate it as a kid. But like, if you're an adult, it really hits. It is a story about a kid, but it's one of those that's a little bit bigger. And it would introduce you to a new world of animation outside like Disney Pixar, which I think is what most people, at least in America, like that's where you go, right? You think animation, okay, it's Lion King, it's Toy Story. Like, this is totally different style, the storytelling, the visuals. I mean, again, a movie, I don't know. I guess it could work as live action maybe, but there's something magical about it being animated.
Yeah.
And, if you feel like an animated movie can't make you feel something, I think Spirited Away would do that.
I love that. I think actually a lot of my picks feed into this question, because I think a lot of them, I was trying to pick movies, one, that excite me, but two, that kind of broaden my understanding of what animation can do.
Yeah.
And my first pick to that end is actually an interweaving of animation and live action. It's called My Old School from 2022, and it's a documentary from director John O'MacLeod. It is, how to begin? It's a true crime documentary about a student named Brandon Lee who attended Beardsden Academy in Scotland. And the true crime element is that he claimed to be a 16-year-old. He was not. He was a 32-year-old man who had this idea, seemingly, that if he went back to school, he could kind of fresh start his life. And this time he'd do it. So Jono, the director, was one of the students who knew this guy. And he brings together his old classmates to talk about what happened. And he brings them into classrooms, and there's this whole convivial energy of being like, dude, remember this? And it has that like energy. Like, you remember when there was like that TikTok meme of like, what's the crazy thing that happened at your school? And people are saying, yeah, right. And people are like trauma dumping, but they're like, yeah, it was so funny. And you're like, wow. So it's that, but a documentary. And so like they're telling these stories, but there's like levels to how they tell it. How the animation comes into play is that instead of like cutting to photos from the time or like home movies for the time, most of the movie is animated in like a Daria-like style. And so it takes us back to the time in a very specific way, and also allows us to kind of accept their version of events, where they're like, yeah, when we saw this guy, he didn't look 16. We thought he was a teacher, but everybody was like, yeah, he's a new student here. So you just, you come to accept that everyone is saying the thing. And so it's really interesting because then at the end of the film, they do start showing you actual footage of that time and actual photos. And it's interesting because then you have to kind of confront the reality, right? So the film starts with the nostalgia and then confronts the reality using animation as the kind of journey to that. But then on top of that, and I just feel like I need to prepare you, because if you look at the thumbnail for this movie or the poster, you're like, what does any of this have to do with Alan Cumming? Well,
okay, I was just going to ask that as I'm looking it up.
Yeah, like, okay, but what about Alan Cumming? Good question. Good question. So they did interview the guy who did this. And the thing is, he agreed to be interviewed. He did not agree to appear on camera. So they hired Alan Cumming to lip sync a performance to his interviews. It's fascinating because we've talked about documentaries before that I feel like inherently are asking you to question what they are telling you in the documentary as you watch it. And My Old School is very much that, but it's like doing it in that way where, like, I think we all have stories from high school that you tell, and like, maybe you forget to tell them for a few years, or you tell them to a new audience, and someone's like, is that not kind of creepy or screwed up? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, and you like hear a glass shatter and you're like, oh, yeah. And like this movie does that in such a great way. I just think it's so fascinating. So yeah, it is a true crime movie. It is a animated comedy. It is a terrific performance from Alan Cumming. And truly, there's no other movie that can give you all those things.
No, not that I know of. No, I think you've got a unique one there. And it is funny because I think that's kind of a universal shared experience, that we all have that thing that from high school that we're like, man, why did we think that was totally normal? That was odd. Probably shouldn't have had that happen.
Yeah, the fact that it was a TikTok trend that went on for a while.
Yeah. Oh, I could have contributed myself for sure. That sounds fascinating. And it actually kind of ties in. We didn't even run these picks by each other beforehand, but I also picked a animated true crime documentary. So how we found those two together is pretty interesting. Great minds. But I went with Tower from 2016, and this is heavy subject matter because it recounts the tragic events of August 1st, 1966. This is when Charles Whitman opened fire from the University of Texas Tower. He killed 16 people. He wounded a lot more. There were other shootings like this in America, but this is kind of the one people point to as like the whoa moment where this became a thing, which is tragic and unfortunate that we're still talking about it now. But the interesting thing about this is it's all, they could have just made a true crime documentary. The director, Keith Maitland, like, you could have just made a documentary about this. You could see something like this on all sorts of platforms. They take events like this and just create your run-of-the-mill documentary. But instead of just like reporting the facts and giving you that, and being that it was from, 50 years earlier, you kind of have to recreate some of this. There's archival footage, but there's also a bunch of rotoscoped animation in here. And it really follows the survivors in a way that, a lot of documentaries and true crime can sensationalize things, and you kind of forget that, there are victims to this stuff. And this one sort of uses the animation to pull you right into the middle of this chaos, but without sensationalizing it, keeping it about the people, the courage people had in this moment, the moments of humanity that kind of shine through this horrific tragedy. And it's pretty moving because it's like, it's not just a story like what happened, but it kind of shows you through animation like how it felt to actually live through this, and the way people responded to this, and that impact of tragedy on people's memories. And so it's like, it was really, I remember seeing this right when it came out, because it has a great Blu-ray release from Kino Lorber, and I picked it up and I was like, wow, documentary, I'm interested. But then when I found out it was animated, it kind of blew me away, because I'd never seen anything as visually innovative as that. It's journalism blended with history and art, and truly about the people and that were, the victims, which kind of, that's one of my gripes with true crime, even as a big true crime fan, is that's the part that often gets left out, some of the heroism and some of the humanity of the situation. And Tower does that really, really well, following students, professors, police. I mean, everybody on that day kind of had their stories, but there's not a ton of footage of it. So you kind of have to animate to put this all together.
That's incredible. I will be honest, I remember when that one came out and I was a little spooked, so I didn't see it. But you speak so beautifully about it, I should really check that one out.
Yeah, I mean, it's heavy subject matter, but it is handled really, really well. Keith Maitland's made a couple other great documentaries too. Like, he knows what he's doing, and I think he did a great job handling this subject matter, which easily could have been sensationalized and turned into something else.
Sure. I'm going to slide into my next pick, which is sort of based on reality, but in the loosest of terms. I picked The Secret of Kells from 2009. And like, you can say it's based on the Book of Kells, which is an illustrated Christian manuscript from the 19th or the 9th century, but like, not really. Like, the story is about a young boy who lives in the Abbey of Kells because his uncle works there. He is one of the religious figures there, and he wants to help be a part of these illustrations. So he decides that against the wishes of his uncle, he is going to go into the woods around the monastery, around the abbey, and find the specific berry that will give them the specific color they need, because this is obviously many, many centuries before going to Michael's and buying your craft supplies. So he goes into the woods and he meets a fairy who, Tom Moore makes a tradition of this kind of character. She's a very strong-willed girl, and she does not like him being in her forest. And it's like a clash of one culture, but also like personalities, as they kind of reluctantly become friends as they seek a similar goal ultimately. And this film is so, so beautiful. Tom Moore, it's he and Nora Toomey co-directed. They took inspiration from Irish folklore and from the illustrated books on which this is inspired. And like, what's so fascinating about that is like, animation has become pretty standardized, where we are like, perspective, and like even the Disney look of like, every couple of years it seems like there's like a theme of like, we're all going to draw characters that look like this and they're all going to be sort of similarly modeled. His characters don't operate that way. He uses very strong lines, but also he kind of flattens the perspective. So like, if you're looking at a room from above, rather than trying to get a sense of the dimension, the walls are all flattened out, almost like a house of cards gets flattened or something. It's just so fascinating, because the way he depicts these environments forces you out of your mindset and to accept the story he's telling. And he actually uses, like, the way animation is used is very thoughtful. There's a lot of hand-drawn animation, and when they veer away from that, it's very meaningful. And it became the first in a trilogy of folklore fantasy stories he did, which also includes Song of the Sea and The Wolfwalkers, which I made a little Wolfwalkers embroidery because I love that movie so much.
Awesome.
But all of these movies have a similar idea of someone coming into these Irish legends and being changed by them. And it's such a beautiful story. And like, I put it on again today to like refresh myself on it. And it's just striking. Like, I put it on, I was like, I'll put it on while I do things just to refresh myself. And I just kept, doing the dad stand and like watching, because it's just gorgeous. But like truly, truly, truly recommend The Secret of Kells. It is just such a fascinating presentation of history and folklore in a very dynamic way that is like aiming chiefly for you to have feelings about it before you have thoughts about it, I guess. Like it's just a very everything about it makes you kind of like pulls you into the space of the characters. And yeah, it's just phenomenal stuff. Like Tom Moore makes beautiful, beautiful movies. And if you haven't seen them, start with this one, work your way through. They're all extraordinary.
Yeah, no, I have to admit I haven't, and I'm looking it up as you're talking to and looking at the animation. I mean, yeah, it looks like a storybook. I mean, it's like something I read my kids. Like, is this? I was gonna ask, like, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, is it too heavy? Is it something they'd appreciate? Because they love animated stuff, and I love giving them something different.
I'm always hesitant to make that decision for other people because one, I'm child free, and two, I recognize everybody has different like bandwidths. I don't think this one is expressly very scary. I think in part because the way the evil monsters essentially are presented is pretty abstract. So I don't think it's going to be like when I was a kid, Gremlins scared the absolute
Gremlins is heavy.
bees out of me. Yeah, it was just because it felt real. Like that gremlin got thrown in a microwave. I own a microwave.
Yeah.
Like it felt too in the space. I understand. I think because of the way this film is illustrated, I think they'd probably be okay. But if you're at all concerned about it, give it a watch yourself, and then you get to watch it with them as a bonus. I just think it's beautiful. It's one of those ones that like I come from an Irish family, so like these like became very popular in my household because like one, they're beautiful, but two, it's like we get to be like, hey. Like
that's us.
Yeah. Look at us go.
I mean, I'm coming from half my family's Irish too, so it's always been a place I've wanted to go. And yeah, the animation. I figure if they can handle Moana, they can probably handle this.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I think that's a very good comparison. I took my like 2-year-old niece
like
to
that
see
stuff.
Moana. Yeah, no, my niece is 2. My niece was 2 when we took her to see Moana. And at the end, we asked her what her favorite part was. And she was like, only had a few words at that point. I think she was almost 2. And her response was beast. She loved that fire monster.
Yeah, because it's abstract enough that it's cool. It was not
fascinating.
Scary.
And like, it was her first like in movie theater movie. So it was so big for her, like I was so proud of her. Like I said, she had like 6 words and one of them was popcorn, but like beast she threw in there. I was like, let's go. This kid beast and me.
That's a cool word to have.
We're going to be
6.
Movie buddies for life.
That's awesome. No,
her mom is going to be like, list. She had more words than 6. And I'm like, And the important ones, my name, popcorn, beast. These are the ones I remember.
Yeah. Get your key stuff down first. No, that sounds great. I'm going to have to add that to the list because it does. I mean, it looks just like the books that they love. So that's really cool animation. And we talked about scares. I'm going to give you a real scary movie. This one's actually scary. I would not let your 4-year-old watch this. You may not want to watch this as a 40-year-old. It is a bit disturbing, but it was one of my favorite, as a horror movie person, one of my favorites of 2024. And it is Stopmotion. So this, let me lay of the land here for this one because this is live action and stop motion animation specifically that is mixed together. So the whole story is about Ella. She's an animator working on a stop motion project with her mother, who's also a famous, renowned artist in the stop motion world. But her mother suffers a stroke in the beginning of the film, and Ella basically gets pushed into this position of completing her mother's essentially final project alone. And so she's just kind of in a room by herself with a bunch of stop motion cameras and equipment and characters and creatures. And her mom has a bit of an odd style. It's a little creepy to start. But then she has this little girl start appearing, mysterious little girl who maybe lives in the apartment building, maybe doesn't, giving her suggestions and guidance on how to complete the project. Some of it gets kind of unsettling. You're like, who is this girl? Is she real? Is she a haunting? So Ella decides she's going to take all that advice and start her own stop motion film. And then gradually the stress of her mother and taking care of her mother, the stress of trying to complete that project and do her own film kind of leads to obsession overtaking all reason. And her puppets throughout the movie get increasingly more grotesque and unnerving and kind of reflect the psychology of Ella unraveling. Like as she's unraveling, her characters start to unravel, and there's a lot of really creepy stop motion scenes where they, pull back from the live action and they dive into the stop motion world, and you're watching this little stop motion girl like chased by this beast, for lack of a better term, who's kind of creeping around the stop motion world. And so like you have this stop motion animated horror movie within this live action horror movie, and like both characters are kind of unraveling and just like falling apart, and it gets into a pretty intense climax with some serious body horror that ties into the stop motion, and like the grotesque characters kind of start to blend. The line between reality and animation blurs. It gets pretty gnarly at the end. It is a bit of a slow burn, but when it starts breaking down, it's pretty intense. I mean, it is an intense. I would not say if you're squeamish, maybe skip this one, but it blew me away when I first saw it, because it's like one of the most original things I've ever seen, because I can't even imagine, like as a director now, you're basically making two movies in one, and stop motion is not easy. That takes a long time, and Robert Morgan, who's the director, found a way to put those things together and have these brilliantly grotesque stop motion scenes mixed with live action that gets under your skin. And I've just never seen anything like it. And that's, as a horror movie fan who's seen a million of the same thing. Like whenever I see, I think did we talk In a Violent Nature on one of these episodes?
Oh yeah, totally.
Just something different, something unique. Give me a unique take, even if it is on something I know, like a slasher. And that's what stop motion is. This is like, it's like if Hereditary was mixed with the stop motion movie, and it's to that level of disturbing at times. So,
sure.
Viewer beware, but it is very cool visually. Some of the stuff they do, I've just never seen before.
I love that. I have not seen that one. It's on my list. I'm gonna check it out. I was hoping to watch it before this episode, but
it's cool.
It's good for Halloween. I'll like hit it for that.
It's great for Halloween. Yeah.
Here we come. And yeah, my next pick, I went with Robot Dreams, which was a blind spot movie for me from 2023 that I only heard good things about. And it is from director Pablo Berger. It is based on the graphic novel by Sarah Varon. And it's like starts off and it just sounds adorable. It is set in 1985 Manhattan, but it is like a world where animals are people, basically. So there is a dog named Dog, and he has an apartment, and he's kind of lonely. So he decides to buy a robot friend, and they really hit it off. Dog and robot. There's like a lot of completely lovely sequences of them growing close. Some of them scored by the song September by Earth, Wind, and Fire, which I just feel like you have that song in your head, like, ah, and you get it. You're there. You're
one
in
of the
this.
best.
Yeah, like phenomenal. But then things take a turn, and this is a teeny bit of a plot point, but it's, or like spoiler, but it's also like the plot. So bear with me. They go to the beach, have an amazing day, but it turns out that it rusts the robot and he can't get him off the beach. So through circumstance, they are separated. And from there, I will say this. It is not that the movie shows dark graphic things, because the animation style, adorable. It's like a simple kind of 2D hand-drawn animation style that looks like something out of a kid's book, but has a very smart, very mature sensibility. Like, as a New Yorker now, I recognize a lot of this New York. And I don't just mean in the, like, skyline. I mean, like, the way they represent animals on the street. There's, like, punk rock. I think it was like a cheetah or something, but like they have like punk rockers. They have like, they're really representing the culture in a way that I was like, nailed it, crushed it. But they're separated, and some terrible things happen to the robot because he is essentially left without his protection. And I got upset because I will just say this. I was not mentally prepared for the turns it takes. If you are the kind of person that needs to know going in, are things going to be okay? They're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. So when things start getting dark and you are also yelling at your TV and going, no, leave him alone. We're going to get through it together. It's going to be fine. But I was really impressed because like some dark things happen in this that if I was describing the plot to you, you'd probably be like, absolutely not. That's not. I don't want to watch that. But it's actually very, very smartly done. And keep in mind, he is a robot. We have seen things happen to robots before, and they turn out okay. Think the Iron Giant,
Yeah.
or Johnny Five still alive. Can throw that reference in there. Short Circuit fans. But no, I really thought this movie was very beautiful because like it starts off being this movie that I think I understand what it is, and then because of the twist it takes, I was like, oh, I don't know what this is. And Robot Dreams is very literally while the robot is stuck on the beach, he dreams of what could happen. And like it got me every time. Every time I was so invested and was like, let it be real this time. Let's see what happens. But I thought in the end, they make such a brave storytelling choice because the message they choose to give is one of growth. And I thought it was so beautiful that like at the end I was like crying, but like happy, like we're all gonna be okay tears. So yeah, I would say if you want more details on what I'm talking about, go look at my Letterboxd review. I'm hesitant to say what I said on Letterboxd here, just because if you don't want spoilers, it's harder to avoid them here, and also just not the tone. But yeah, check out my Letterboxd if you want to know more. But highly, highly, highly recommend Robot Dreams. It was one that I kind of caught up to late, and I regret that I took so long because I really loved it.
Well, you're scaring me a little bit now. Now I feel like I have to go. I always do this, but now I have to go to does the dog die and does the robot die and check both of these things.
I feel like I can say no. I will just say that. I'm going to save you both. Just because.
Then I can watch it.
Yeah. Like
because I am one of those. No. I will check on the dog.
Oh, I wrote an article on does the dog die in Good Boy this week. Like that's a thing.
I saw your article and I was like, this is really smart because I have
this is service journalism. Yeah, no, because it's the only thing people have been asking me since I love that movie. I think it's great. It's coming out soon. But when I saw it at South by, I kept recommending it to people, and literally everyone's question was, "Does the dog die?" Like, I'll see it, but does the dog die?
That's my first question every time if there's a dog involved. So
right. So I will say for Robot Dreams, they're not going to die. We're not going to go that dark. But
we're good on the dog and the robot.
Yeah, cool. but the stakes get high, things get dark. But yeah, it's ultimately, keep in mind the theme of this is September, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like nothing can end up that dark if that is your theme song, right?
That's true. It's my wife's favorite song, so we need to watch this now. It's her all time. That's like the wedding song. Like I will lose her at any wedding if that comes on. So we need to go watch this one. But I picked for my last pick this is a real nostalgic one for me. And it is a goofy movie. But I love Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, and I have to talk about it because this came out in 2001. So I'm 9 years old. This is one of my earliest memories of being not just seeing a movie in a theater, but also being fully bought into like the movie marketing and everything that led into it, because I was a Nickelodeon kid and this was the Nickelodeon movie. And this actually, a lot of people probably know the TV show. This was before the TV show. So usually it's the other way around. Like you'd make a show and then make a movie. So they made a movie and then had the show come out, which is kind of interesting. It was early CGI. So you have to keep that in mind while you're watching it. There are multiple Reddit threads where people are like, look, that guy's hair blends into the locker at the school next to him, because like they were figuring it out. It was so early, and this movie took forever to make, but it was like such a cool, different, it was like one of those STEM, it feels like it almost could have been on like PBS Kids. It's like a STEM animated comedy where it's all science and math, and like Jimmy Neutron's the smart kid, and like all the stuff I'd grown up on is like SpongeBob, and like SpongeBob's like not the smart kid. Like the smart kid's not usually the one we're talking about. And I was like a little like smart nerd kid. So I was like, this is cool. I like Jimmy Neutron. Jimmy Neutron's my guy. But it's all just like Jimmy makes inventions. A bunch of aliens come kidnap all the adults in the town. There's a great use of the song Kids in America when that happens, and they're going nuts, which is like burnt into my memory. But basically they just have to build inventions to build a spaceship that can go interstellar travel and like rescue their parents. So It's a ton of fun. It's funny, it's clever. It has like all this kind of cool science fiction with like that early 2000s Nickelodeon comedy. And it is kind of revolutionary when it comes to, I mean, it wasn't like it's the first CGI film because Pixar had done that, but there was not a smaller studio who was doing that at the time. And even though it has some of that goofiness, like it was kind of early on showing how smaller studios and even like smaller filmmakers could start to push the limits of animation with CGI a bit, which, you know, it was definitely one of the first CGI animated TV shows afterwards. It became a huge success. And I feel like it ran for more seasons, but as I was looking it up, I guess it didn't. They just showed a lot of reruns. It only had like a few seasons. But that was for like 9, 10, 11-year-old me. Like Jimmy Neutron was everywhere. And it was nice to see it. The movie still holds up. Like it's still funny and smart and creative. And, you know, it's nostalgic, but sometimes nostalgia doesn't always hold up. So it's
Sure.
nice that it's nice that this one, as I was watching, was like, oh yeah, when my kids are, you know, 7, 8 years old, like they'll love this movie.
I love
And
that.
as a bonus, you get Patrick Stewart as the alien villain, and Martin Short is in this as well with a voice. So if you love either of them, they have little moments in here. But Patrick Stewart as they're called the Yokians, like the egg yolk. He's the Yokian villain, which is kind of cool.
I love that. I'm also really thrilled. As we said, we didn't like compare lists ahead of time. And I really love that we have here stop motion animation, hand drawn animation, some computer animation. Like,
and I wasn't even thinking as I did it. Like I just picked and you picked and we kind of covered it all, right?
I love that. I like on it, like, and like that's what's so exciting to me about animation is just that, like, you know, I get so it frustrates me that best animated feature is a thing at the Oscars because I feel like it's pitting these things together that are so different. And I think it also has a tendency to stick them in a box where we are not necessarily then talking about them in the other categories. And,
True.
you know, this is a hill in which I will probably die, and that's fine. I love animation, and I'll take it with me always. But yeah, no, I'm really happy with these picks. There's so many cool films that it was actually really hard to narrow it down to be like, what do we talk about?
I know.
But I love that, like, not only did we cover, I think, a pretty good breadth of things, but also, like, we managed to hit movies that, like, I haven't seen and you haven't seen. Like,
I know. That's the best part of this podcast. Everyone's listening to this podcast. Like, let me get some movie recommendations. I'm like, yeah, me too.
This is
like,
also why I show up.
That's why I'm here, to get my movie recommendations.
That's a wrap on our animation episode. We hope your watch list is now packed with color and imagination and maybe a few nightmares made of clay.
We'll drop all of our picks in the show notes and over on Kanopy's Letterboxd HQ account. If you want to stream any of these animated gems, just head to Kanopy.com. It's totally free with your library card or university login.
Be sure to subscribe to the Film Library so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you like this episode, leave us a review. Or better yet, tell us what your favorite animated movie is, past or present. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at the Kristy Puchko. And on Blue Sky and Letterboxd, you just search Kristy Puchko. I'm KristyPuchko.
And I'm Jeff Rauseo on Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, anywhere the internet goes. Just search my name, JeffRauseo. No CGI on my social media. I'm not that talented, so it's all just practical effects. Thanks for listening, and remember, in animation, every frame is a world waiting to be explored.